Collaboration Summit 2019 in Wiesbaden, and I have a wonderful next guest here. Hello, Laurie. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Laurie Pottmeyer, and I am the Community Manager for Microsoft Teams and Skype for Business. Yeah. And I have an adoption background. I've been at Microsoft for 14 years and have always been in the unified collaboration space, so it's my passion.
Actually, we know us for several years, only online, on all the Microsoft MVP groups or whatever, so we first met here in person.
I love these events because of that, right? I mean, we are online all the time, on email, on Teams, and we're on meetings together, but to meet people that you've known online, face-to-face, is really fun. And even some of the community members, too, on Twitter and other places. I may not work with them regularly, but they're people that I know from online. It's fun.
And the communication between the MVPs and your program team has completely changed because we're communicating about Teams. We have our regular meetings there. Everything is recorded, and there are vivid chats in Teams. And sometimes it's hard to follow all the news and announcements. How do you follow all the announcements? I think it's not the only team you're involved in. You have, of course, I think several teams. And how many teams are you involved in your daily work?
Oh my gosh, that's a good question. I don't know. Now that we can hide teams, some of the teams that I am not as frequently involved with have dropped off into the hidden teams, and so I don't know how many are in there. I probably have over 20 teams that I'm a member of, and some of those teams have over 100 channels, and you know, the MVP team has almost 400 people in it, so it's quite a big group to manage.
How do you manage to keep up with everything? Do you have some time slots where you say, okay, don't disturb me, or is it a constant flow of information, chats, pinging, whatever?
You know, I'm not the best at time management. I am the first to admit that. It is a struggle for me to figure out what to do next or what the next priority is, and so Teams has made it easier in a sense because everything's highlighted there that I haven't responded to. So such like email is, where the email may be bold if you have not read it, and you can see which you have responded to or not. Same in Teams, you have notifications. So what I usually do is in the morning, my workflow is I check and see where I've been tagged, and for the teams that I'm very active in, I see if there's any conversation that needs my attention, and that's my first triaging. And then I will go back and do some of the things, or check some of the teams that I'm not as active in but want to know what's going on. And those are times where I'm more reading and absorbing. I talked in my session today about how Teams has created this online environment that is very collaborative and open, much like our open office spaces are for a lot of us, where we can just be a fly on the wall, which is nice because if you're remote, you don't get those hallway conversations or water cooler conversations. You don't get to hear what people are just chit-chatting about. And so it's nice to see the persistent conversations in there that you may not have had visibility to, or a meeting that you may not have attended because you weren't invited, not because you shouldn't have been there, but you weren't invited, and then you learn things new, and it really makes you feel so much more in the loop. But the time management thing, that's a tricky one. The notifications have helped me. You can also change your notifications so that you don't get a lot of the noise. And for some people, they like to see all of the notifications when somebody likes something or reacts to their comments. That is something that I choose to turn off. I think
you have to try to start to see how it fits for yourself, for your work style, and then to do the adjustments. And that's something you talked in your session today about. You have a really good framework for companies of people who want to start with Teams and say, how can we start it? It's an adoption framework. How does it work?
Yeah, so there's 3 main steps, and the first is by just starting, and that's the planning process. When you're understanding who your users are, everybody uses Teams different. You use it different than I use it because of our work styles, because we have different jobs, we work for different organizations, and we're in different countries, right? There's so many variables of how people use Teams, and so understanding how your specific users use Teams is very, very important, because that is going to tell you what your goals are going to be, and it's also going to help you put together a training and communication plan to get it rolled out and make people successful with it. So that's the first part, is really planning and organizing and getting started. The other piece that I should also throw in there is having a very robust project team. So it's not just a PM or it's not just a trainer, you know, it's everybody that's involved, everybody that's going to touch teams from a deployment perspective, and that includes executive sponsors and trainers and support teams and communication teams. All of those people need to be part of those regular conversations.
Let's get back to the framework. The first step was starting, and the second step is experimenting.
Experiment.
What should we do there?
That's your pilot.
Yeah.
So start small, right? Start with a small group of people, and small to you maybe is different than for me. But take a subset of users. It may be 100 people, it may be 20 people, it may be 1,000 people. But take a subset of your users and give them teams and run through the process that you think you will with your broad deployment. So that includes having a communication plan, having a training plan, all of that is documented, making sure your support is ready to support them. And so by doing that during this experimentation phase, we not only understand what's going to work or not work from a user perspective for our broad deployment, but we also understand what documentation and training is going to work or not work. Not everything resonates with everyone, so. And
you get a feeling how Teams works in your company, in your specific environment.
And there is the technical testing, right, too? Like, are there changes we need to make? Do we need to limit something? Do we need to improve the experience for our users from a technical perspective? So yeah, those are all things you find out when you start small.
And step number 3 is scaling.
Scaling, yeah. Getting it out there and deploying to the masses. So that's our broad deployment. And that's once you've finished the pilot and you know what works and doesn't work, you're going to create a plan to deploy broadly. And that looks different for everybody. Sometimes it's a phased migration, or phased deployment, and they do it by location or by team, depending on their situation. Microsoft, we deployed it by teams rather than by location. And so that deployment is then when you start doing your broad training and getting it out there and communicating and getting people excited and working towards your success metrics, which oftentimes is user satisfaction, time saving by better collaboration, usage, yeah, all of those things that are important.
And everything is well documented. We have a link here where you can download the documentation for the adoption framework.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you're keeping it up to date right now.
It's up to date. Yeah, we have Skype to Teams, which is great for customers moving from Skype for Business to Teams. That gives a lot of technical documentation, but also user resources. And then there's also the adoption site that has all of the resources for somebody that's starting a net new project as well.
Okay, last question. European Collaboration Summit, how do you like it here?
Oh my gosh, I want to come back. I am so happy that I was asked to be here this year, and I've fallen in love with Germany, and I love the people here, and the event is fabulous. This is really great. I think there's 2,200 attendees here. That's fantastic, and everybody is just passionate about collaboration, so it's fun to meet new faces and see some ones that I recognize, yeah.
Okay, Laurie, thank you for taking the time and good travel home.
Thank you very much.